Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Yash, and in this video I will tell you how you can create a perfect sprint planning template on Notion from scratch. In this video I will be also covering what are the different components of a Scrum workflow and how they are linked to each other. In this video I will take an example of India's 10-minute delivery app called Zepto, and this would be a hypothetical example. Now, as a product manager, my goal is to help my user search for a relevant product that they are searching for and also to suggest them product that they might find interesting. The timeline that I have set is 1st Jan to 31st Jan. Alright, so before jumping back to the Notion, I would like to explain visually what my goal is and how the different tasks are laid out and connected to each other. So at top we have something called version, and the version that will be released on 31st Jan would be version 3.1, and the name of the version is Smarter Product Discovery. Now under version we have different sprint. I can have 2 sprint, 3, 4, 5, as many as I want, but I have only laid out 4 sprint for each week of my month. So my sprint 1 starts from 1st Jan to 5th, and then sprint 2 starts from 8th Jan to 12th Jan, and so on. And my first sprint would be improve search accuracy, and the second would be enhancing explore and personalization, and so on. So as you can see, I have my main version, and under that I have divided it into 4 different sprints which we will be pursuing for each week. Now under sprint 1 I have something called epics. Epics are usually the group of individual tasks. So for example, I have improved search accuracy, which is my sprint 1 from 1st Jan to 5th Jan. Under this I have 3 epics called optimized search algorithm, voice search, and autocomplete and filter. And under each epics I have different user story, which are also called tasks, tickets, whatever you're gonna call. So my AI based ranking, prioritize frequently bought products, and optimized backend all are grouped together under one epic. Similarly, in voice search I can have different kind of user stories, and these can further be classified as task, subtask, but we don't have to go through that detail. Okay, so we have understood visually on what our goal is and how different things are laid out. So now let's try to build that in Notion. Okay, so I'm on Notion and I will be starting from bottom to top because otherwise it would be hard for me to link the table to each other. So let's create our first table called user story. Okay, so this is my page and I can expand the view. Okay, now just press slash and start writing table. Now we don't need to create a table which is a simple rows and column. We need to create something called a database. Okay, and we'll be calling it as a user story. Okay, user story. Okay, so our first user story is AI based ranking, and I'll be writing it here, AI based ranking. So this is my user story. This is what my shortest task that my team has to do. Now this should be assigned to a person that is responsible for completing this task. For that we will create a new property and we will call it as the property type would be a person, and we'll call it as assigned to. Yeah, that would work. Okay, what's the next? Okay, what else do we have to track for my user story? The status. So for that you can select our property type as select, and we can say status, and under that we will be having something called urgent. Okay, and assigned or in progress or hold or completed. Okay, so I've created all the status which I can now assign to my user story. Okay, the next property we can create is date, and date, and that would be my completed date or a deadline. Let's call it a deadline, because a task without a person and date is useless. So here we have created a deadline, which a property whose type is a date. Okay, now so let me fill all the other user story as well. So this is my second user story, and this is my third. Okay, and I can assign it to a person. Great, and my status would be like whole in progress assign. So I'm just randomly assigning it just for the example, and the deadline would be 2nd Jan, 5th Jan, and 4th Jan. Okay, so these are the deadline. Now back to our chart, we know that this user stories are now linked to Epic, and for that we need to create another table. Okay, and we'll call the table as Epics. We'll be creating another data set and we'll be calling it as Epic, and somehow we need to link these two databases together, for which we'll be using something called relations. Okay, so back on Notion, let's create a new page and call it as Epics and expand this. So again we'll be pressing slash, and create a new database and call it as Epics. We can hide the title. Okay, so the first property is Epic name, and let's go back to our chart, and the first Epic name is optimize search algorithm. Let's paste this. The second would be voice search, and the third would be autocomplete and filter. Okay, so we have noted down all our epics, and there has to be some deadline for each epic. So we can call it as we can search for a date property and call it as release date, deadline. Okay, that would be my deadline. So for example, I can give it deadline as 5th and 7th and 9th. Just for example, I'm taking random dates. Okay, so now as I told you, my epic table needs to be linked to my user story table. So for that, we'll be creating a relation between my epic table to my user story table. So just click on this plus icon and select relation. Okay, and now it will ask me which table you want to link, and I'll be selecting my user story. Okay, and I'll be adding a relation. Okay, so now when I click on it, I can see all my user story. So it's like all my data from my user story, I can see it here, and then I can link here. So I'll be linking AI based ranking, optimize, priority field. So can you see all my 3 user story are now linked to my epic. Okay, so back to our chart. User story is done and epics are also done, and now the next step would be to link the epic to my sprint table. And again, we'll be doing the same thing. We are creating a new database called sprint and link it to epic.